the Adventist Church and the Pro-Chancellor of Clifford University, Pastor, Professor Bassey Odo. Stand for recognition, sir. Former Governor Kezi Bazu will always describe him as the primate of my church. Pastor Professor Bassey Odo, welcome, sir. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, let me quickly recognize a traditional ruler, the Eze of Umuaf Autonomous Community Obingwa, His Royal Majesty Eze Engineer Victor E. Nwobia. Abayadu Eze Nkwokwe. Thank you very much. At this time, let us recognize the presence of the family of Emmanuel Adaelu. Emmanuel Adaelu's family is here, fully represented. Let me formally and officially recognize the first son of Emmanuel Adaelu, a former member of the National Assembly, Engineer, the Right Honorable Solomon Ezinwa Adaelu. Oparuku Dedelita, rise and greet the audience. Thank you very much. And the wife, the widow of Emmanuel Adaelu, Engineer Mrs. Blossom Ijeoma Adaelu. Solo, I will use you as point of contact to reach your siblings, but I will request that all the other children of Elder Dr. Adaelu MFR, please stand for recognition. All of you, please stand. Mandewoko, Mandewani. A round of applause for the children of Emmanuel Adaelu. Yes. Ilendewoko, part of their costume. Mba honwe. Evuchawa hono nana. Yes. Kesolon kacha. Kekele sonwe. Chinkata ema ona lolo aso na kwa lolo mma kian ha nkori nye 1 month kian ngi ho ka ke umunne ya. Thank you very much. Emmanuel Adaelu Bonyo Osisioma, distinguished son of Osisioma, and the man who represented him at the House of Assembly some years ago is here. Ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Young Onyike, who is also a part of the Adaelu family. Thank you very much. Okay, we will continue with the recognitions. There are so many other people that we will recognize. We'll make sure that everybody here is recognized, but because of time, we will move straight into the colloquium proper. The idea is, by the time we go to unveil the hostel and dedicate it, the event will finish from there. So, very quickly, I would, this is time for the opening speech by the chairman of this colloquium. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I invite to deliver his opening speech. Professor of Education, former Commissioner of Education in Abia State, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Clifford University, Professor K.C.K. Wangwa. A round of applause for Professor K.C.K. Wangwa, chairman of the colloquium, as he comes.
I want to stand on the existing protocols. I have the pleasure to welcome all of us to this very special occasion. When we talk about Elder Dr. Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu. We are talking about so many things at the same time. This is a man, when we want to talk about the history of this university, you cannot write any paragraph without giving him a pride of place. Nanya Adaelu means so much to this university. When we were buying the lands at Owerenta, some of us, the younger ones, before we will even stand up to move, Elder Adaelu has almost covered the whole place. He was such a strong man that sometimes we will sit back and ask, this is a man that God has blessed in a very special way.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, at this juncture, with every sense of humility, respect, and responsibility, we want to make welcome the Chancellor of this all-important university, our dear father, leader, and coach, no less a person than Pastor Professor Basi Odo. Put your hands together again for him as he comes to say something to us. The Kaduru question at BQ. You are most welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I begin by thanking that's to delegate an assignment usually we don't, and that is delegating the nominating committee to be chaired by some other person, and that tells us how important this program is. Like I said one more time, my apologies. Let me begin by saying that this ground where we are is the cradle of Adventist education in Nigeria. Cradle of Adventist education. Many of us who were here or knew this place many years ago, Adventist high school. For us as a church, is a very serious historical heritage, historical landmark. And in our country, Nigeria, as far as education is concerned, we like to pay people to how we have to the old students of our parents. Today, on behalf of the also stand here to represent the president of the Self-Less Church and the Western Pastor of the Sorrow, who will be arriving tomorrow.
Battere camera. Camera di telefono, non devo andiamo a una cosa da camera di telefono. Ognuno deve che non. Stringere quando invece la tappa
Today it is my personal pleasure of the incorporated trustees of the Southern where I serve as chair. To say that name that Adaelu donate was a compound name in the Southern compound name. We thank God for his hands. We thank God for his life. Adaelu Adaelu left very serious, monumental landmarks as far as churches. I want us to place on record that the man we are remembering his hands today single-handedly donated and he just came and said, as the church, choose wherever you want and take from the youth of church. The Eastern Nigeria Union today, headquarters in Aba, covers all our churches in the southeast and south-south geopolitical zones, covering 9 states and South Edo and Ghana. Today, as we pay tribute to the life and times of our dear brother, elder, father, late Adaelu Adaelu, we recognize and appreciate his contribution to the Seventh Adventist Church, his contributions to the Adventist community. I close by saying, for Pt2 University, we like to salute the fact that you had a good influence. He walked with me. Member of our executive committee. He was the chairman Ways and Means of Clifford University. He was the chairman Land Acquisition Committee of Clifford University. He also served as the chairman Finance Committee and even fundraising. So when they were speaking, I nodded my head and said they are correct. Today, on behalf of our church, on behalf of our membership, on behalf of our very distinguished leaders, we stand today to remember and salute the contributions of late Elder Adaelu. And we pay respect to his family, the wife, the children. And we say to you today, by the special grace of God, silver or gold we may not have as a church, but we tell you the contributions of our late elder remain very remarkable. Remain very remarkable in the life and times of the Seventh Adventist Church. Thank you for coming. Thank you for being here. I pray the Lord will bless all of us very good in Jesus' name. Amen.
Oh, this is another round of applause for Pastor Professor Bassey Udo, President, East Nigeria Union Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, and Pro-Chancellor. Pro-Chancellors are chairman of the governing councils of universities, of Clifford University. Thank you very much. We move straight right now into a speech, some form of opening remarks by the chairman of the Central Burial Committee. But before then, Okubunka, Ofasa, Okamadi Buruburu, Sadon Opane. We recognize you. You've been very instrumental to the success of what we are doing today. Okubunka. Biko tobe ke tobo Odie. Aha. Anything know that also go to good morning. Good morning, sir. La WhatsApp. Yeah, say good morning, my brother. Okamade Ndasa. Okamade Buruburu. 24th, this. Eke. Oh. Thank you very much. Detio, Chief Tio Nkire. You are the chairman of the Central Burial Committee for this burial, and deservedly so. No other person could have done it better. No other person here now shared what you shared with Emmanuel Adaelu. So your choice as the chairman was very, very well thought out. Please come and give us your brief opening remarks. And got a Vice Chancellor, Pamano Otagi Jimoji. Imadime Ejimeze Vice Chancellor Ezeu. May I talk about? Oh, VC. Barano. Detio, it's time for you to make your opening remarks. And after that, you work together with the Vice Chancellor. Nyende Obianyoji. A round of applause for Chief Tio Nkire, Pioneer Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice, Abia State.
Mr. Chairman, sir, Mr. Vice Chancellor, the Pro-Chancellor, Clifford University, the Deputy Vice Chancellor, Clifford University, Ndezai, Unabialai, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I have passed through these gates so many times in my life that I can never count. As I passed the gates again this morning, I told people who sat in the same car with me that each time I pass through here, I give thanks to God. The first day I passed through these gates, Thursday, January 16, 1958, I came to school here. It was like 4:30 p.m. I met my longtime friend, engineer Uzoma Franklin Azogo, at these gates. And we became instant friends. And we remained friends until it pleased the Lord Almighty to call him home. They call you Pastor Udo. I call you Archbishop Udo. He's my friend. Became my friend through the man called Emmanuel Adaelu. I'm happy you're here, sir, today. I am not chairman of Adaelu's burial committee. I'm chairman of the planning committee. Adaelu will never be buried. He will never die. We are just planning his exit to the other life, the better life. Adaelu cannot die. Adaelu is everything to us, the Okwangwa people. He's our leader. He's our friend. He's our brother. You hardly will hear any of us speak of him in the past. We believe he's not dead. We believe he will continue to live among us. I welcome you, ladies and gentlemen, to this historic gathering where we've come to pay tribute to the man to whom honor is due, the man for whom the bell tolls, Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu. To the church, he's so many things. Elder, maybe the foremost elder of the Seventh-day Adventist Communion east of the Niger. But he's also, first and foremost, a father, a grandfather, and maybe even a great-grandfather. He's also the husband of now a widow. But then, there's something that gives us hope. It is the good life that Adaelu led. That is what gives us hope. And that is why I say he cannot die. Because I believe that on that resurrection morning, Adaelu will be one of the first to rise again. So I welcome you, ladies and gentlemen. Sit back and listen to stories from the life and times of Emmanuel Adaelu. Please just relax. We have brought in, assembled a noble, very noble class of speakers comprising of judges of the High Court, professors, and men who knew him best. There is a gentleman, I'm not sure he's still here. I must not fail to mention his name. He is the chairman of Aba Union, Onyewala of Aba. Onyewala bụ the eze for a community in Aba North local government, Umuola Ebelu. And he worked closely also with Emma Adaelu. I welcome you, sir, to this gathering. I'm happy they have mentioned my good friend, Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Sam Esocha, and one of our foremost leaders here present, Dr. Gershon Amuta. I welcome you, sir. I met Dr. Amuta here sitting when I arrived. So I'm very grateful to you, sir. Welcome. This aspect, I'm sure Archbishop Udo must have gotten used to this, that this aspect, thank you. Anya bela lokwu oji. Honorable Solomon Adaelu, Lumunne, Lande University anyị, Egwetaloji. I'm sure Lord, any local government la anyị lokwangwa la no ngana. So agakwa be ways to oge. Ekpawa na. But maybe for clarity, MMK say no kwa east, unabiala, unahunoji, no kwa west, unahunoji, aba north, unahunoji, aba south, unahunoji, ugu na abo unahunoji, obingwa, unahunoji. Isi ala ngwa north, isi ala ngwa south, unahunoji. Odima oji ezuola anyị, odi onye m gofuru. Osisi ọma nweta ala. Unahuno otumele ejeme, ndị mmụọ ọjị, ndị ngwetara anyị ọjị. Dede, lunu ngwetara na ọjị si unahu nne. Unu nsi ngwere gawa. Mamano. Unahuna la chairman Kemboke planning. The real chairman is here. Professor.
Ndika anyị ebe anya lilela ahụ n'ọjị aga m iji ohere na akpọ onye isi anyị taa ọ gọziere anyị ọjị na anyị nta ya achọrọ m ịkpọ Prọfesọ Chimezie Ụmụọnụ taa ọ gọziere anyị ọjị na n'ihi na ọ bụ ọjị a ga-egọzi n'okwu Igbo.
Ndeka anyị ọjị ọgachala otu o kwesịrị ịga ma makwana okpewe ekpere gboo kpewe ekpere nya ọjịla adịghị ọgazuola unu si mkpewa ngwana unu mechie anya onye nwanyị na Chineke anyị ekelela ya ekele ebe ọ dị ukwuu n'ihi ụbọchị taa. Imeela otu isi kpọkọta anyị site n'ebe obibi anyị niile dị iche iche bịaruola ebe a n'oge awa. Echuwala n'ihu anyị ọjị ekele, ọjị obiọma, ọjị ịhụnanya. Mgbe anyị ndị ete onye nwanyị kwee ka anyị tata ndụ na ahụike akpa ebe o si foto ekwela ta ọkụ ụkọ mee ka ọ bụrụ isi iyi nke na-adịghị ata ata. Imeela eze eluigwe lenụla arịrịọ anyị ebe ọ bụ na anyị rịọ n'aha Jizọs Kraịst bụ onye nwanyị. Amen.
Thank you very much. Unemela. What appears to be a breach of tradition, but unuhara, anyị ngwere na ọkụkọ anyị mere egwu gbara nọ onye eze ịkọta nna hara ewegbala iwe ahụ. I forgot to tell the audience, thank you said for saying it, that you are an old boy of this place. And during the colloquium of late Dr. George Wigwe, you talked about how proficient he was in subjects like trigonometry and calculus, even when calculus remained incalculable and trigonometry remained ever so tricky. Thank you very much for that reminder again. A distinguished old boy of Ihe High School. Dr. Gashan Amuta, when he came back from the US, many years ago with a PhD, also served as vice principal of Ihe High School. Thank you very much for that piece of history. And finally, on that, Professor Udo has long become an Ongwa man. Very long ago. In fact, I was told that he has an Ongwa name, one Osike. So that way, Pastor Professor Bassi, one Osike Udo. Yes. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, without wasting much time again, I want to invite the chairman of the Colloquium subcommittee for the passage of Naya Adaelu to come and give us a synopsis of the keynote speech for today's colloquium. After that synopsis, which will be brief, we will go straight to unveil what is here, which is a book like a compendium of the papers to be delivered today. That event will be handled by no less a person than a distinguished academic. I'll tell you about him at the right time. But for now, let us invite Elder John Nwamborogu, chairman of the Colloquium subcommittee, to come and give us a synopsis of the keynote speech. John Aka. Elder John Nwamborogu, a very committed Adventist. In fact, since Obatralime here, there John, the activism part of him went down. Pastor. Sabat in the
chairman of this very important occasion, my dear leaders, and the chairman of our Central Planning Committee, Pt2. I won't forget to mention my leader in the church, the president of Eastern Nigeria Union Conference of the Seventh Adventist Church. I pride myself in saying, if human leadership or religious leadership is anything to go by, I belong to a church led by a man who commands the largest territory religious-wise around here, because the church in Eastern Nigeria comprises the whole of 9 states of the Eastern region. And Pastor Udo here is the leader of that church. I salute you, sir. I salute the Vice Chancellor who has worked very closely with us every inch of the way in planning this. And I salute all my leaders, without failing to mention my master and mentor, the man who brought me into this world of politics, and the first man to break the jinx. In those days, some people used to say, which means, can you even try that? That's the first man that dared the political bulldozers of former Imo State to say that an Ongwa man can become governor. And he tried it very, very well and powerfully. He is also the man that sent me to the university. I'm talking about Dr. Gershon Akatobi Amota Namukuya. Sir, I salute you, and you're welcome back home. He's been away for some time. And Dr. Samson Esocha, whose company, Seawheel Pharmacy, was our fallback at that time of the great battle. There, you're welcome, sir. I salute the family of Elder Adaelu, led by a lion-hearted young man, Engineer Honorable Solomon Adaelu. Solo, I salute everybody here, without forgetting Professor Noha, who has been talking with me, planning with me on the phone. Prof, you're welcome. We salute you and also congratulate you for your appointment. Adane, blessing Maba, I also welcome you. I welcome all of us, especially members of the Colloquium Coordinating Committee. Very wonderful people. Adane, Chief Mrs. Olewan, I don't know if she's left here. Chijin Karo, the powerful secretary. All of you, Okubunka, you're there. Please let me stop it at this point by saying I recognize everyone here, and especially the students. Some of them too were collaborating with us here a few days ago, working on this. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're here not just to celebrate anyhow person. We want to celebrate a man that distinguished himself in every facet of human leadership. He was a great man, but he refused to place himself at that place. He brought himself so low to be accessible by those of us, ordinary commoners. I want to talk about a man who, for convictions best known to him, offered himself up to the point of sacrificing even if possible his family just to serve the interests of people. I want to talk about a man who, going back to the history of his people, dating back so many centuries, and especially given the events of 1891, when there was a treaty of friendship between the British colonialists and our people here. That was a turning point in our history. And this man has looked back and calculated that between 1891 and 2015, the Ngwa people, the Kwangwa people had journeyed in the political wilderness for a total of 124 years. This political wilderness never gave our people any joy. And all other things that happened subsequently, when the man was asking, and he would tell you, this land must be saved. If I accomplish no other thing, but in solidarity with my brothers, my people, will tell this tormenting us through marginalization, deprivation, and exploitation that we exist, then nothing else will matter to me. He offered. Pt2 tells us that this man led our people for 20 years. I think it is more than that. Though, as a young man, I met him first time in 1994. But when I read histories through him and Pt2 here telling me about Malangwa and all those, he may not have been in the forefront leading, but he was leading right from that time, those years. So we're talking about here Elder Dr. Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu. He will tell you, Nale, the Kanye Solobo, Adaelu, Ahua Langare, Ma. Over here. Pt2, our leaders, Dr. Amota, Dr. Sochai, and many others, gathered and said, no, this man has that, agreed. But, like some writers say, there is only one thing that will walk back from the grave with mourners. after a man is buried. That thing is the character of man. Adaelu has a character that we refuse to remain in the grave the day we will enter him. His name, his character will walk back with us and live forever with us. A man also said, if you do not want to be forgotten so soon after you are dead and buried, you either do something worth writing about or write something worth reading. Adaelu got the two. He did a whole lot worth writing, which is why we're here today. We have written, and he wrote, because he's an academic, and people have been reading what he has written. That is why we're here. So the topic of this colloquium is Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu, MFR, a consummate leader. Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu, Elder, MFR, the consummate leader. I'm sorry, my leaders and elders here. If we have to line up all persons from this land called Okongwa, placing them and ranking them according to what they have done, not necessarily because of the resources available to the man, but because of the heart, because of the mind he had. My elders, everybody should forgive me. I think that nobody can rank the same level with Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu. That is a father of ours. In 1994, when he was talking to me, I went to him for a very important question. Today, why did you build this house? He told me the story. But he said, these things apart. John, let me tell you one secret about my life. I have realized over time ago, if God blesses us with wealth or resources, whatever, material or intangible, he has not done so for purposes of our serving personal interests. He has done that for us to commit some in the pursuit of the well-being of our people. If it's a political cause, their liberation or emancipation. If it's anything, making sure that they are happy is primary. Therefore, whatever I have, I channel it in that direction. It doesn't matter whether I go hungry at the end of the day or not. That's what it matters. So he has this heart of giving, heart of doing, heart of fighting for his people. It doesn't matter whatever is involved. I was telling somebody a few minutes ago, said, if they were alive, by yesterday when we planned something, Emmanuel Adaelu will sit back, will not sit back and watch. He will call Omombian. Who know the plan? To make sure that it will not fail. That is Emmanuel Adaelu for you. That is the man I met as my leader. No matter whoever is involved. Having said that, the other paper which I have Flames of Elder Dr. Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu MFR in the Odyssey, political Odyssey of Ukangwa people. That's my own paper, but I'm not going to go into that. But I will just tell one story and end this thing. In 2003, a very historic period in our history, after Dr. Amota's fight in 1989 through 91, when this great man dared the Iroquois like the Wanyamos and so on, fighting in NRC and capturing the political structure of NRC and winning, the screening committee came and declared Amota the only qualified candidate. That was shortly before the creation of Abia. But immediately after creating Abia, we lost hold of the structure. And that's why we lost the primaries. People say all kinds of stupid things about this great man. The man made them by people realize that you can dare the lion. The only time we had another opportunity to make a point was in 2003 with the Pt2 movement. At that time, we fought. The movement was of such a momentum that everybody believed we were going to win. But PDP came with a policy. And that policy was, all governors of PDP will be returned for a second time. And there was this challenge. People started crying. Where are we going to now finally ventilate this, our program, our ambition? The War Council that met resolved, we will look for an alternative political party. That political party became NRC. In NRC, another problem came. Somebody had paid for the ticket. How are we going to get the ticket? And we were told to bring 10 million naira. Our flag bearer didn't have it. Nobody had it. We ran to Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu. There, where maybe allow, na abongre ni magwe. La nyama agunu. Ibegeja on uhibeja kolonama. About 10 million get handem kwa heka ise. Hey anya be seregana must go. Ga kuwo. Somebody la kuola. Egwere ga refund onye ka anya adoya. Anya amfu hemmeneno. Oburu the Nigerian factor. We won that election. Courtesy of Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu's sacrifice. 2003. The same 2003, we had another imbroglio. One of our sons, okay, two of our sons from the Central Government contested for senatorial election. But because of the wave of the Pt2 thing, we knew what happened. Well, stalemate came, courtesy of INEC. One of our brothers, Moses Ogbonna, ran to me. The journey. Nana Adaelu like it. Why don't you go to him and tell him Nana Adaelu? We fought for #1 man of Abia and lost. Now that the situation exists like this between Imo and Adolfo, why can't we utilize that opportunity to win #3 man of Nigeria? I ran to this man. There is John one. You know, I say one na desia handenge ego. He listed some names. As a Jesse Ogu, as a Long Wogu, as a P.O. Bunna, as a P.N.O. Banco, and so many others. Let me around this thing. I'm talking 2 papers at the same time. Puchi, I'm doing 2 papers. So, at the end, they led us to Abuja. One name, my sister, Honorable Blessing Wabo, were there on the side of Adolfo's pleading. I really said, my people, since after the First Republic, when we had the Ururukas, the Jazz and Wachikus, and then since after Abacha's time, when we got Paul Oguma as CBN governor, Ungwa people have lost relevance. Ungwa people have lost it. Let us do everything and get this. In all that happened, one fateful night is a night that shakes me every time I remember it. We finished the meeting in the evening. They said, how can Emmanuel Adaelu go back to Ungwaland and tell them the story of failure? Failure in getting Imo, failure in making our people get relaunched to national relevance. Because for 9 days we were in Abuja, we have not seen Imo. The man went to bed. As fate will have it, he didn't lock his door at Nikon. By 3 a.m. I went to check on him. What did I see? This great man was crawling on the floor, fighting to get his drugs from the table, and his hands could not reach the table. I cried and shouted, "Dave, what's going on?" He couldn't talk. I managed to lift him up to the bed. He started pointing to his table. I got there and collected all the bottles of his drugs. And then I will lift one, I will tell me the number to bring. I made him to sleep. I stayed there. By 5:30, they woke up. John, have you seen him? Have you heard from him? Nale. Can Emmanuel Onyemaobi felt? I know they felt. But sleep. 7 o'clock, he woke up again. Where is him? Said, God is going to do something I don't know. But as faith will have it, my phone rang and it was him calling. John, is it him? I said, go and get him. The whole of the story ended. But what is it? Assuming this man couldn't have access to his drugs at that time, who knows what would have happened? For the sake of a people called Ndengwa. My people, today, what we have done is to put down a lot of things. Blessing Wamba wrote a powerful paper, and I'm so proud. Everybody wrote. I asked somebody this afternoon, if Adaelu were to look back, and that's the question I want to put to everybody, yesterday and today, where are the political class of Okwangwaland? All I labored for, was it in vain? All of us here have a duty, a responsibility to do something so that our claim to honoring Emmanuel Adaelu, celebrating him, will not just be ephemeral, pretentious, empty, nothingness. Let this man look back, if it were possible, and see a regenerate army of committed sons and daughters of Ogwalan who will continue the mission from where he stopped. Therefore I say, Emmanuel Adaelu, you wrote great things that your people will read forever. You did great things that your people will keep writing about. Humanity will continue to celebrate you. Okwangwaland living. Your challenge is, let us not disappoint this Iroko, this consummate leader of his people, Dr. Elder Emmanuel Adaelu, MFR. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for Elder John Wamboroko. I want to assure you that this must be the shortest speech ever delivered by Elder John. And Amalam Hwanyin de Priya Ibn Akemba. If you allow him, Elder John can speak for a whole day and keep the audience captivated. Thank you very much, Chairman of the Colloquium Subcommittee. With the authority of the Chairman of this Colloquium, Professor Kesi Kenwangwa, and the Chairman of the Passage Planning Committee, Chief Tionkire, we want to effect a slight amendment to this program today. And we respectfully plead with Professor Obononoha to give us just a few minutes for us to listen to the speech of my Lord Honorable Justice LTC Eruba. Naya Adaelu was, amongst other things, a very passionate Adventist, extremely passionate Adventist. That will make Naya Adaelu choose between that and his faith in God through the Adventist Church. His choice was very clear. So let me invite to give us a lecture, a speech on the topic faith leanings in the leadership profile of Elder Dr. Emmanuel Adaelu, MFR, where we will hear of his relationship with the Adventist Church. Let me invite respectfully, very, very respectfully, my Lord, the Honorable Justice LTC Eruba. A round of applause for Justice Eruba, and I urge you to listen and be blessed. My Lord, before you take the mic, your brother George just walked in, and I felt I should do the honors. My Lord, Judge of the High Court of Abia State, Honorable Justice C.C. Nwakamma. A round of applause. My Lord, your brother judges are here, and as a lawyer, I want to enjoy these Christmas holidays in my house. Mamma Metoka. Even here, contempt of court is very applicable. Please, sir, come to the high table. My Lord, Honorable Justice C.C. Nwakamma. My Lord, two more judges are here. In fact, I'm just being told now. My Lord, Justice Anyim, and my Lord, Justice Emuneji. Please join your brother Judge to the head table, please. Please. May I respectfully ask the two judges to join us here at the head table. Unu kora waka. As a lawyer, I'm not used to seeing judges without their wig and robe. So that's, they will understand that I didn't see them. I'm used to seeing them fully robed in court. Welcome, my Lord. Thank you very much. Okay, sir.
We have usefully spent our time, and as a result, protocol has been established, and I want to ride on the existing protocols. My assignment is to discuss the faith leanings in the leadership profile of Elder Emanuel Adaelu, MFR. And I begin with the writings of God in the book of Exodus, when he said, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength." This was the guiding principle that presided over the life and times of Elder Emanuel Adaelu. It is indeed a great honor to be given a speaking appointment to shed light on some aspect of the life of this great legend of our time, the man, Elder Emmanuel Adaelu. This is a colloquium well deserved, and for this honor I thank the organizers of this program profusely. May I also in the same vein register my condolences to everyone bereaved by this death, especially the first family. The Lord will surely console you better than anyone can. May the Lord quell every storm of life that rises in billows to assail the peace, unity, and conviviality of the Adaelu family with the eternal order. Peace be still. Amen. Elder Adaelu and his source of power. We all know that Elder Adaelu was a very powerful man. If you didn't know that, you don't know anything. And I want to discuss this afternoon his source of power. The life and times of Elder Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu appear to me to have been governed by his deep-seated commitment to God as expressed in the above-read Bible passage. He loved the Lord his God with all his heart, with all his soul, and with all his strength. It is in a man's heart that love dwells, and in his soul that his being is assessed. His strength does not only suggest his power, but everything that he has. Love is not the flippant mentioning of the word, "I love you," by which the world is deceived. It is rather exemplified in deep-seated sense of sacrifice and the concomitant actions that buttress it. In other words, love is living sacrificially to the benefit of others. Thus, a heart of love is evidenced in the level and quality of giving and forbearance exhibited by the bearer, set against the resources available to him and that was placed at his disposal. And when we talk about resources, we do not only refer to wealth, but also we refer to and include a man's influence. As we will discover later in the course of this assessment, we will see that in essence, resources follow a heart that has taken the initiative to love. It is indeed the disposition of the heart that permits altruism to grow. The scriptures lead us to understand that a living soul is a body infused with the breath of life. Thus, the mathematics of a living soul is dust plus earth plus breath of life equal to a living soul. So then, a soul is the entire being called man. It will encapsulate his physiognomy, intellect and talents, including his influence, power and productivity. It will not exclude his ego, mandates, threats, thoughts, craftiness, and mien. The soul is in fact the encasement from where the character of the man exudes, which we later recognize and deify that man. When we talk about the soul as consisting also of the power of the man, we should not think only in terms of physical strength, which in any case God requires, he deploys in serving him. We in fact call into the aid the scripture that we find in Deuteronomy chapter 8 verse 18, where we are enlightened to believe that it is God that gives man the power to make wealth. The need for the scripture to record this reminder must have been because God had foreknowledge of the fact that man may become so preoccupied by his wealth that he would forget that it came from a source that only made man a steward of such wealth, which source, at the appropriate time, will require him to account. If there is any human being that so thoroughly understood this and believed it and put it in practice, it was Elder Emmanuel Adaelu, as fondly called. What else is the strength of a man except his spirituality? A man's strength ought therefore to be rooted in his knowledge of God and his willingness to abide by his dictates and the righteous precepts of the saints. As we are bound to see in this discourse, his source of power was entirely spiritual. I was privileged among other young men that sat around this great stage after I had a remarkable encounter with him, as may be revealed later in this discourse. And he used to call me the people's lawyer in those days. I do not make any further claims of closeness beyond the fact that I will say a little of what I heard from him and about him from credible sources, and much about what I saw that can be said as concerning his faith leanings, manifested in his leadership roles as a faith community maestro. Let me discuss the concept of faith and the applicability of municipal politics. Quite often we make faith seem as if it is antithetical to political leadership, whereas it is not. Elder Emmanuel Adaelu carved a niche for himself in the characteristic masterstroke of weaving forthright faith into even partisan political maneuvers. In a sagacious understanding of Romans chapter 13, the great sage was of the view, and rightly so by my own understanding, that political leadership was God ordained. It was therefore naivety at a level of doubtful mental capacity to spawn politics, even partisan politics, feigning holier obligations to faith. He was rather of the view that when forthright faith is infused into municipal leadership protocol, quality of governance will be raised to enviable heights. This persuasion was again revealed in the biblical aphorism that we'll find in a Bible passage that says that when the righteous are in power, the people will rejoice. This sacred fact was also what incensed the mind of one of our great thinkers, George Jean Nathan, when he opined that bad government was elected by good people who refused to vote. Being aware that those who sat in government to plot the affairs of the state are God's servants to do good to well-intentioned citizens and to foment mayhem and opprobrious evil to cancerous citizens, Elder Adaelu deployed this faith background and thus engineered collaborative efforts with a lot of political processes to midwife geopolitical leadership in the belief that they will bear out his faith after all. We will consider just a few examples to establish the fact that integration of faith can be possible in political maneuvers. This persuasion, the political divide between the old Bende and Aba Divisional Forum is an irascible yet dynamic political phenomenon in Abia State which to date has remained incarpatanate. So, high-profile political gladiators spin the yarn of ascendancy to plumb political offices in the state in pretentious rotational agreements between two political divides that are observed more in its breach. Elder Adaelu had watched with cognitive curiosity how Abia State had been ruled for decades in both military and civilian administrations without the Aba Division sector of the state ever leading out as a governor. The Ngwa La Okwa people of the said Aba Division had almost accepted a fate of consigned incapats in the leadership struggles of the apex office in the state. For Elder Adaelu, it was an atavistic injustice, analogous only to the plight of Israelites in Egypt when they were held captive by Egyptians. He felt it was an insult to his personality and also an insult to a God that he had faith in, who was a God of justice, equity, and fair play. As a faith iconoclast, he deployed all his intellect and resources to the search for social justice and the governance of Abia State. Ladies and gentlemen, it was Bob Marley who captured the mood of Elder Adaelu as the arrowhead of the Okwalangwa people in the early days of the struggle in this war song for egalitarianism thus, until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned. Everywhere is war. Pt2 was another legendary musician with allegorical orientation. He was of the same ilk with Bob Marley in prophetic musicology. Releasing inspiration on social justice, Pt2 sang, and I quote, "Everyone is crying out for peace. No one is crying out for justice. But there will be no peace till men get equal rights and justice. What we need is equal rights and justice." That was the mood that gave birth to the first wholesome and decisive assault at state power by the Okwalangwa people. And no one fitted more in that fight for social justice than Enyinnaya Baribe, who was himself a sitting victim of the conflict between megalomania and the centrifugal manipulation of state power to disinherit the people of their commonwealth in a most surreptitious and pretentious but deceitful show of magnanimity, whereas the reality was crass self-aggrandizement by the most intransigent maximum ruler ever to walk the corridors of power in Abia State. Distinguished Nathaniel Onyemaobi raised the banner of liberation in his quest for the governorship seat of Abia State. He was considered suitably qualified to lead the Okwalangwa struggle for liberation from political emasculation, as he was by maternal ancestry Okwa and paternal ancestry Ngwa. Elder Emmanuel Adaelu MFR opened a ceaseless floodgate of his treasury and pumped into the Pt2 political machine phenomenal financial resources. He thus gave hope and muscle to a movement that had everything but money. History will remember that Elder Adaelu stood tall in the struggle as the rudder that propelled the fluidity of the most glorious campaign that Abia State has ever witnessed, as the Okwalangwa people appealed to the conscience of the rest of Abia State in this song. Unu nyenani otu onu, nyenani otu onu, ani mechano otu onu, otu mbodo unachiwa. The point to record is that it was a fight for social justice from the spectacle of faith interpretations that appealed to conscience and humanness, which in my view were deeply religious. Funding assured. Another very debilitating factor that impeded the impetus of the Abaribele struggle was the fact that the Ngwa community, who by far had the largest enclave population, was largely Adventists. By the faith details of the denomination, politics was steeped in a miasma of death and rot. And thus, like the Apocrypha of Nathaniel, nothing good could come out of the political Nazareth. To make matters worse, elections are scheduled by the National Electoral Body permanently on the Sabbath days, which was a no-no for the Puritan Adventists. The political implication was that the Ngwa enclave suffered a demographic disability foisted by faith that had monumental political minors. This syndrome tormented Elder Adaelu so severely that it became necessary to interrogate it. For him, given his profile in the Adventist church, it was some kind of fly perching on the scrotum. But leadership has its price. Ladies and gentlemen, I took counsel with him by a community reading of Luke chapter 4 verse 18, where in his manifesto, Christ said that he had come to proclaim liberty to the captives and set at liberty those who were oppressed. And Proverbs chapter 29 verse 2, where the scriptures professed that when the righteous were empowered, the people will rejoice. We were set to appropriate the power calculations in Romans chapter 13 to seek political leadership to liberate our people from a sitting suppression by a rival but multifaceted plan with remonstrance. We thus stretched the elasticity of Romans chapter 13 to accommodate a situation where, to set people at liberty from oppression, Adventists could be encouraged to vote on the Sabbath day. And so, I wrote, and he funded the publication of the pamphlet, Voting on the Sabbath Day. As we expected, it was like a wildfire that engulfed the Adventist faith community in Abia State. This point is made to underscore how impassioned Elder Adaelu could be in the liberation struggle of his people, rustic faith notwithstanding. He could do that much for the Okwalangwa people who he loved very dearly. It wouldn't matter now which side of the divide you took with respect to that little pamphlet. Without prejudices to the exegesis of the pamphlet set against sound Bible doctrines believed by the Adventist Church, the motivation was catalytic and not heretical. It was an attempt by a compassionate leader to interrogate his faith, to improve the faith of his sorely agitated people, honestly believing that God was in it. Maybe we may just have to mention that Elder Adaelu ran a lot of non-denominational but interfaith organizations that sought the face of God over common social interests. As it came to pass, and the season of anomy that denied the mandate waned, Elder Adaelu, determined to break that jinx of the southern part of Abia State not leading out in the governorship seat, entered into collaborative efforts with the T.A. Oji family hegemony of the old Bende side of the state, and in a landmark historical earthquake gave the Okwalangwa people their first governor ever and broke that jinx. It didn't matter who was the figurehead, as long as he was the Okwa. He was of the Okwalangwa extraction. And to that extent, the project was abundantly accomplished. By this collaborative principle of reciprocity, which was established between the family of T.A. Oji of Bende and that of Adaelu of Ungwa, a lot of political exploits were to rise and send so many people into positions of authority in government. I will need to skip a few things so that we can abide by time. Let me discuss the faith orientation of Elder Emmanuel Adaelu with respect to his charitable activities. Elder Emmanuel Adaelu was, to say the least, a philanthropist of sorts. His investments in this regard littered the surface of the earth. You could run mad trying to comprehend them. The much anybody can do is to see his effort in this direction as an elephant. Describe the much you can from the perspective you are focusing. From the very limited information available to me, I am aware that the endless hectares of land where the headquarters of the Eastern Nigerian Union Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church at Ayaba Umweze is established was freely donated, whole and entire, by Elder Emmanuel Adaelu, and even that edifice of a secretariat raised on that ground exudes the fragrance of his resources and will do so forever. I am aware that the entire land where the Aba South Conference of the Seventh-day Adventist Church Secretariat is located at Aloma in Abai was freely and completely and wholesomely donated by Elder Emmanuel Adaelu. Again, the edifice of a secretariat raised on that land admits of a substantial admixture of his resources. As if that was not enough, he single-handedly built a magnificent church on the part of that land for the Seventh-day Adventist community in that neighborhood. I am aware that the temple mansion of the Seventh-day Adventist Church at Abai, where Elder Adaelu worshipped, was near 80% funded by the combined resources of the legend and that of his son, Elder Alex Adaelu. I am aware that Elder Emmanuel Adaelu was one of the people that pursued and persuaded the government of Abia State, then led by T.A. Oji, to release the land and premises of the defunct E.A. High School to the Seventh-day Adventist Church that owned it. When that institution metamorphosed to the now Clifford University of great repute, Elder Adaelu showered the university with multi-dimensional resources. It was a blanket check that he gave the university. He was its fundraiser and life wire. He resuscitated the infrastructure from the ruins of war to the elegant environment we can now see. Adaelu is on record to have persuaded Chief Paul Oguma to throw in 100 million naira into the development of infrastructure in Clifford University. He waded into land disputes that arose between institution and some native landowners. He funded reconciliation meetings. He repurchased some lands that were about to be lost to adverse claims, and where necessary, deployed other interventions that I may not want to mention. As a teacher of no mean reputation, Elder Dr. Emmanuel Adaelu donated his services free of charge to the Ecclesiastical University as a lecturer in moral values. The categories of the services of Elder Adaelu to Clifford University are they not recorded in the annals of history? I recall in this attempt to describe the principles and policies that governed his charity, I recall being present when they brought a Hummer Jeep for Elder Adaelu to buy. That time, that ugly tinker box of a vehicle was selling for 13 million naira. The vehicle was reigning then. It was the definition of elites in the society then, the symbol of aristocracy. In my view then, Adaelu deserved to have one because he was among the people the vehicle defined. But he profusely declined to buy the vehicle. As we moved into his office later, he was to tell me that the vehicle will take away from him much needed resources to do charity. It was then that he told me that all that he drives as his vehicle were what we refer to as tokumbo, and that he did it so deliberately so that he could have enough money left to fend for the less privileged. Ladies and gentlemen, we all know that Elder Adaelu could afford any manner of brand new vehicle, including Rolls Royce if he wanted. But he disciplined his desires and put them under subjection that others may benefit from his sacrifice. It was this height of altruism that Elder Adaelu could sustain humongous charities, too numerous to mention. For years untold, Elder Adaelu has been sponsoring medical outreach programs that address the health challenges of widows and less privileged. At a point, I am sure his family felt it was a point made too far. And so when he turned 80, the children bought him a brand new Toyota Jeep that was like an 8-moving machine as his birthday present. They must have forced him to ride in that machine. And while sitting there, he will be calculating in his head many alternative benefits the cost of that vehicle could deliver to the needy. That was Elder Adaelu for you. I could go on and on, but I have long become aware that any attempt to seek to exhaust the record of kindness of this legend will not only be futile, but will rather exhaust me. I would therefore lead us to know why he chose to be that charitable. The presence of Onyebuchi Ememanka notwithstanding. I once led a delegation with late Chief Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu to invite him to a choir day ceremony of the Seventh Adventist Church at Umuokahia. We got to his house only to hear that he had left early in the morning for an urgent appointment. But we met his son, Alex Adaelu. We gave him our invitation card and the wine we had brought to show respect. Alex took the invitation card from us, but declined to take the wine. I am heading to somewhere. He told us that he was not sure that his father will approve of his receiving the wine from us, and that we could go, but if we insisted that we could come another day to bring the wine. We left with some measure of mixed feelings. As we headed towards the gate, lo and behold, Elder Adaelu was driving in. Happily, we came back with him and presented the drink to him. He declined as prophesied by Alex. Curiously, I asked him why. He now revealed what I consider the philosophy behind his altruistic public spiritedness. In a consummate anecdote, he told the story of how he had retired as a teacher with his white bicycle without any inkling of wealth. Then in his retirement, God remembered him and blessed him with stupendous wealth obtained in clean hands. And so in his characteristic wittiness, he asked the rhetoric question, Mara Chineke, onye mpagara ibe ya mai? This answer studied in the air. We thanked him profusely and left. Reaching out to the needs that promoted the gospel was his own way of expressing a grateful heart. This impacted me as a young professional then and mentored me. It accounts till today why I came close to this legend. I committed to that principle because I too, I am a grateful heart. May I humbly commend this character of Elder Adaelu of denying himself his desires so that others can benefit to all and sundry at your several levels of endowment. I am concluding now. Elder Adaelu was later to buy out for us the land where the parsonage that today houses the district pastor of Seventh-day Adventist Church, Umokaya. In traditional gratitude, our church delegated some persons. We bought goats and yams and took to him in appreciation of such monumental assistance. Of course, he roundly turned it down. Men and brethren, as I rest, the faith imperatives of the leadership profile of the man, Elder Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu, MFR, is not just awesome, but bewildering. Speaking about it is an arduous task, requiring the fortitude of the angels and the patience of saints. I retire now into the ageless canticles of Henry Wordsworth Longfellow, where he counseled as follows: lives of great men all remind us we can make our lives sublime, and departing leave behind us footprints on the sands of time. I could easily agree with Shakespeare when, irked by the hollow emptiness of the invidious powers of death, he shouted in frustration, "Out, out, brief candle! Life is but a walking shadow, a poor player that strolls and frays his hours upon the stage, and then is heard no more." Because no matter how long Elder Adaelu lived, we wouldn't have let him die if we had the powers. For the likes of Elder Adaelu, I will not agree with Shakespeare in his carnal conclusion, and when he said that life was a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. Therefore, tell me not in mournful numbers, life is but an empty dream, for the soul is dead that slumbers and things are not what they seem. Life is real, life is earnest, and the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, and dust return it, was not spoken of the soul. My lords, spiritual and temporal, ladies and gentlemen, may the Lord Almighty, who his humble servant lived for, preserve the heritage of Elder Dr. Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu till the resurrection morning, when we will meet to part no more. Nunc dimittis.
think we can do better. A round of applause. I think he even deserves a standing ovation. My Lord, the Honorable Justice LTC Eruba, a monster of erudition, a great literary mind, one of our finest. You can never get it anywhere better. My Lord, Imela, we didn't expect anything less. I understand I wonder how his law classes will be. He teaches law in this university. I'm lawyer. I would have returned here to read law again, just to be his student. My Lord, thank you very much. Thank you and thank you again. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we have just 3 things left. We will finish this even earlier than we expected. We have just 3 things left, and I assure you this is true. First, we will have a 5-minute playlet. Just 5 minutes. Chief Mrs. Olewengwa and her group will do a 5-minute playlet here, after which we will invite the Executive Director of the National Institute for Nigerian Languages, NINLAN, Professor Obunonoha, to unveil this resource material here, this compendium of lectures. The good thing is that all the lectures we had mapped out to be delivered today are included in this compendium. So once it is unveiled and you get it, every lecture will be there. After the unveiling of this book, the Vice Chancellor of Clifford University, the chairman of the occasion, will lead us straight to the final event for the day, which is the unveiling and the dedication of the hostels. There are 2 eminent persons being buried in Ungwalan today, which is partly why a lot of our people are not here. The president of the Apostolic Christian Church Mission is being buried today, and then of course our own son, Chief Ahokanna Abatex. So a lot of our people are in these places. We will shut down this event in the next 30-45 minutes so that people can attend to other things. So at this point, I want to invite Chief Mr. Olewengwa, but not until I have, because I will go back to practice. Ladies and gentlemen, what I'm doing today, he did many years ago at the colloquium of the late Dr. George Wigwe. Another erudite man, Elder Adaelu, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, has just walked in. Thank you very much. Akalawa, Chief Mr. Olewengwa, over to you. You told me you won't take more than 5 minutes, but I'll give you 7.
Thank you so much, Barrister Ememanka. Good afternoon, Lolu Beke. Good afternoon, Lolu Beke. The day we were meeting the idea of this colloquium, Barrister Ememanka stood up to say that colloquium is an academic program. Abuhem Shisanya, good afternoon. But what I'm going to do now will be Miss Kobu, Ayunkwo Beke, and Yekwibo. The Upangwa nation has many ways of expressing their feelings, their beliefs. Some of them emphasize the culture of our people through the names they give to various individuals. Some of them are philosophical. Some of them may be foolhardy and nasty. We had a man called Karawusa in Ogunabo. We have Enyeri Benyem. We have Chiavo Wilefu. We have Chioda Dege. We have other ones that we use to express the bitterness of death. And they cross their hands across their chest and they say, Amen. In a few days' time, we will be going to bury our sage. The same day of burial for Elder Emmanuel Adaelu is the same day for some people coming into this world. While the burial date of one is here, the birth date of another is here in the same system. I have a name my father gave to me. Only 4 people calls me that name in this whole wide world. 4 people. And I got to know the meaning of that name when I was 13 years in secondary school. How did I know the meaning of this name? The George Nwigwe, his middle name is Azumbuinge. Azumbukwike came to our house. And Papa said, Ojoko, that is the name. Go and tell your mother that Azubinge is here. I ran to Mama. Mama said, Gweta tray. Me gweta tray. Timpekele granola, timpekele cucumber, timpekele miri. Me fruya. Boadawa la table nga Papa la day George no. As I was about leaving, day George said, what about that? Ahimbo Joko. Oh, see, yes, sir. Yes, I was battling with the answer because I didn't know. The judge said, onomatopoeia. Yeah. I couldn't connect onomatopoeia to my name. My name is Ojoko. And the judge was trying to tell me the meaning of Ojoko. He said, onomatopoeia. When he saw the vagueness on my face, I wasn't following. I didn't understand what he was saying. He went again and said, Ojoko is onomatopoeic. Hell. He now said, God gave a dictionary, book rack, Papa. I ran off. Gave a dictionary. The judge I have. O-N-O-M-O-P-O-T. Hey. Chineke mebe rachota onomatopoeia. Onomatopoeia. Madase. The judge Ojoko la English dictionary. I didn't know he was telling me. Onomatopoeia means, students, do you have your dictionary in your phone? Onomatopoeia means a word whose meaning is the sound. A word whose sound is the meaning. I managed to get onomatopoeia and I read it. The judge asked him, Mbana, asubu fuya asubu, ono jareta, onomatopoeia. Ojoko is onomatopoeia. That's how the judge joined my father to call me Ojoko. The third other person that calls me this name, that makes me feel big-headed, that makes me feel valued, that makes me feel wanted, is Elder Emmanuel Adaelu. Elder Adaelu's name is Emmanuel Okubeke. Kodaburo Onyemaobi chi, Onyemaobi madu. Kodaburo Adaelu ahwala ma. Typical Ukwangwa name, with its generational meaning, with caution. Ematase, as you try to go up, the higher you go, the greater risk there is. But you will not, because of that, not go up. We are here today to talk of Adaelu and Walama. A man who started from the very base and reached the cliff of the mountain. Cliff of the mountain is the highest point of the mountain. This man who sometimes counted his fingers to know when the next salary will come became a man of immense wealth, influence, and power. How do we explain this kind of situation? It got me thinking. I was saying, like Hannah in the Bible, who knows if Emmanuel Adaelu went into a covenant with God? Hannah said, my childlessness is giving me problem. It's humanizing me, it's making me feel ridiculed. God, if you give me a son, I will give him back to you. Who knows? Because there is no other way you can explain the joy with which Emmanuel Adaelu doled out money, doled out support for the good of humanity. If not that, he must have entered into a covenant with his God and say, if you give me, if you remove me from this poverty, I will return it to you. And he did it through various ways, directly and indirectly. I am the daughter of a pastor, president of the Seventh-day Adventist Church. That's how I know what I'm going to say now. Elder Adaelu's tithe kept rising, and it became a veritable means of budget programs and projects in the church. Elder Adaelu, a prudent philanthropist, wasn't a spendthrift. He will give and give, but it was cautiously given. Adaelu, an administrator who planned, organized, directed, and effectively communicated with the system. He planned himself in such a manner that no child of Adaelu suffered the humiliation of going to look for a job. No child of Adaelu suffered the humiliation of writing application and going to look for a job. He provided for them for today and tomorrow. The Adaelu family is a generation of wealthy people. Who has ever seen a thing like that? There is no socio-cultural organization in this land that does not knock on Adaelu's door. And you knock, he opens. Ememanka, Angwano, Alowalam, Kweno Malo, Ndekanye Ndewono. Barrister Nkira Fula. Nkira means Nkire means Nkira is an abbreviation of Mwaka Nkiri. A bird at hand is more than 50 in the bush. We are here today enjoying this beautiful auditorium with the VC shifting programs slated by the Senate because he is our own. Professor Chimezi Omono, my good brother, Ekelela me so much. Mwatankire. That is why we are here today. How else do we talk about this headmaster? Special headmaster, a rare headmaster, a unique headmaster. A headmaster who also doubled as the bell ringer. This master has gone on a far journey. I dare say a journey of no return. Who will ring this bell? Who will ring this bell? Adaelu monitored and strategized in such a manner that he knew how to effectively use this bell to call us together, to say, no, this is not where we are going, this is where we are going. Those who have gone on recess, he says, no, break is over. Come back and queue online.
Put your hands together for the lady of the day. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Unukorayaka Chief Mrs. Olewengwa.
Thank you very much.
Unukorayaka. Onomatopoeia means Eriela Monoma. Eriela Monoma na MC Geta. Onomatopoeia Eriela Monoma. Thank you very much, Chief Mrs. Olewengwa. Naya Adaelu was and will remain the leader of Okwalangwa people. Okwalangwa land has two divides. Okwalangwa. So before Professor Onoha comes to unveil, let us also hear from the other side, from the other divide of Okwalangwa. Let me invite respectfully Sir Don Opane. Okamadi Buruburu. Okubunka of Asa. Okamadi Buruburu. There is a time when Unkwa, Tobunkwa, Odie. I am told that on an Odie day, chiefs speak for less than 3 minutes. Please.
My people. Because I want to stand on well-established protocol. First of all, I want to express very deep excitement and sense of a reunion coming to this place. Because about 42 years ago, that was when I came here last. And that time I was a teacher at Ihe High School. I taught English language and literature in English. Since 1982 that I left here, I've not been privileged to come here again. So that's why I feel this is a reunion, and I'm happy with this reunion. Well, I have a write-up. I'm one of the presenters today, and my paper is, I'm sure, captured in the booklet. But before I leave, I want to make 3 important observations or points. One, Elder Dr. Emmanuel Onyemaobi Adaelu, MFR, was a leader par excellence. And as a leader, he knew what he wanted. He had his vision. And that was why as a leader, when he knew he had to fight the cause of his people, and he realized that for this fight to be successful, there must be economic backing. He must have a very strong economic backing. And he left the teaching profession and went into business. And in doing that, he had a very serious romance with technology, the Chinese technology. That is what is responsible for the success of ChemLab today. And I'm happy that everybody in that family has that Chinese technology to his or her fingertips. Again, it is good to note that this is a leader that did not take kindly to any attempt to ridicule his people. You will remember in 1982, when President Shehu Shagari came to Aba, he was supposed to sleep in Aba, but at that time in 1982, no Okwangwa man had a befitting building that could accommodate a sitting president. Well, someone who was not an Okwangwa man but had a very magnificent building in Aba, wanted to host President Shehu Shagari, but it was not to the comfort of our people. So the president had to leave. He had to leave that day. And after that, our leader, Elder Dr. Emmanuel Adaelu, felt that it was a big insult to the people of Okwangwa. And that is why he conceptualized building that edifice that is his home. That house is as good as the Buckingham Palace in London. So that he did it in such a way that if any other president will have cause to be in Aba or in Okwalangwa, he wouldn't look for where to sleep. He was a leader that meant well for his people. Another thing I must not fail to mention is that one of our leaders, we call him OCMM, the voice of Moscow. The assassin, Esochai, knows what I'm talking about. When OCMM of ACNC, he was elected into the House of Parliament in 1959. But because he was a radical, well educated, knew what he wanted, he disagreed with Okpara, who was the leader of ACNC, by virtue of being the premier of Eastern Region. And they had to rusticate him from the party, ACNC. OCMM decided to contest as an independent candidate. And because he was very popular, NCNC leadership in Eastern Region knew that if he was allowed to contest, he would win that election. So there was an attempt to make sure that he was rubbished. And what did they plan? Because by then, what we have today as Okwa East and Okwa West Federal Constituency was then known as Aba South Federal Constituency. So they planned that during the night when the votes will be counted, that they will take off light. And because there will be darkness, they will say they are going to the provincial headquarters at Omaya to count the votes. And of course, in course of doing that, they would maneuver the votes. OCMM will fail. But that intelligence was intercepted. And do you know who intercepted it? It was Emmanuel Adaelu, who was a younger friend to OCMM, voice of Moscow. And he revealed it to OCMM. That was why, on that night, when the light was put out, more than 100 torches were put out at Aba Town Hall. And the vote counting continued. And OCMM won and was re-elected into the House of Parliament as an independent candidate. Again, I want to say that Emmanuel Adaelu was a man that meant well for all of us.
Thank you very much, Burguru.
Yes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. I'm sure that OCMM was have been the father of Love the MMM, the uncle of Love the MMM. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to... Yes, round of applause for Sadon Obane. Okubunka Ofasa. Okamadi Buruburu. Okamadi Buruburu. Thank you very much. Unemela. It is time now to unveil this book. This book is a compendious compilation of all these lectures, all these speeches that would have been delivered here today. Rich, full, well researched, well packaged. It is like the voice of our people. Who else will do this better than a man who is a passionate Okwangwa man? One of the finest academics we have. During my days at the Abia State University, he was chairman of the academic staff union of universities. And when I did my undergraduate project on ASU and collective agreements, he assisted me so much. He rose to become the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Abia State University. And just 1 month ago, the federal government of Nigeria found him worthy to be the first ever Abian to be appointed Executive Director of the National Institute for Nigerian Languages, NINLAN. A very big one for our people. Ladies and gentlemen, join me as I invite to unveil this historic document, Professor Obonna Onoha. At Abia State University, he was the university orator. The man in Yasu Beke Suka Beke. There be a wunda Kwaka Konaka Lahila. I would like to invite a few distinguished persons to join him at Godwin Adendo, former Chief Press Secretary to the Governor of Abia State, my worthy predecessor in office. Thank you for assisting our Dede. Let me ask the Vice Chancellor of Clifford University to please join the unveiling. Yes, the unveiling, please, Professor. Chairman of the Colloquium, of course, you will join. Professor K.C. Kenwangwa, please join. Very eminent Senior Advocate of Nigeria, Dede, Elder Chibike Nwokuku, please join. Please join those that will unveil. Dr. Enyin Naya Biko, please join. Join. Da Okuchi, Dem, Honorable Blessing Waba, PhD, please. Become border or Yegutadun Obodam. Yachorodake. Da Biawabia join Dr. and Dr. Mrs. Esochai, please come. The chairman of the Central Planning Committee, Pt2, is not here, so his deputy, Right Honorable Barrister Ozazubiki Ijirijiaba Bikobia, and represents the Central Planning Committee at this unveiling. And then, of course, Engineer the Right Honorable Solomon Adaelu, Gara Adhanne Kurobia, to represent the Adaelu family. Adhanne, Ikodo, Solomon, Unubia Nochitanya, Ndekanye, the family. Mommy, Engineer Mrs. Blossom Ijoma Adaelu, please come. Prof, sir, before you, I'm here. Before you speak, sir, let me announce that from here, after this event now, the Vice Chancellor and the principal officers of the university will lead us all, everybody here, straight to the unveiling and dedication of the hostel. The unveiling will be done there, dedication will be done there, and thereafter, Engineer Solomon Adaelu will give a vote of thanks on behalf of the Adaelu family, and from there, Ola, Prof.
Ndekanya una anola una abiala biko no anya notala arimichi kele ndị nsiwara hụ na ya ndị akpọ arimichi kele ezinụlọ na ikwu Adaelu ndị nyere nkwado wesi ma ọhụ na adị ime taa otu na mbụ otu kwesịrị ịdị ma oke mmadụ na-agala ala ngwa ozi nhafụ agaghị li otu a o were manya la ọgbakọ niile yiri ihe taa ga ọkwado ihe a ga-ili nna anyị Adaelu la ọ bụ ihe kwesịrị ya afọ 8 gara aga ọ dị ndị mkpọ gị leta nna anyị Adaelu ma jụọ esi ya ngiri mgbe ndị ka anyị enweghị obi adaeji ekwu nna ada eme nna ngịrị me ndị ka anyị enweghị obi adaeji ekwu nna ada eme nna ya sị enyi m hara o Lord ndị ngharịfụrụ ya la ọtụtụ ndị mmadụ ngharịfụrụ ya mala Abịa mala Imo mala ala ngwa mala ụkwa adị m izi unu ya dịka ozi o ziri m ta m zi unu dotezigharịfụ ya ọdụ ọtụtụ nji ya rigoro nji nkwado ya rigoro tụzọọ ya ụkwụlụ isi gwere aha gaa nara ego ghọọ ndị mbara aba lee ebe na ndị ichiche mkpọrọ aha gbuo ọ bụ ndị otu a bụ ndị mebisi ụkwara ngwa ọ bụ ndị otu a bụ ndị mebisi ala ngwa ala ụkwa la ala Abịa asịla anya mbụ ndị ekwu nna ada eme nna otu a ndị Yoruba ndị eme Yoruba mkpọfụta mmadụ taa sịla ọ bụ onye a nga gara wehwe onye ọbụla ntị ire aka agụfụlala onye Yoruba ọ gaghị ibili alaka biko manda asị unu ọ bụla ọdụ otu si mehie nna ya Adaelu rịọ mgbaghara mmehie because nwoke a mbụ otu n'ime ndị leji abịa ụwa otu mgba in 200 years amaghị mgbe ọdọ onye ndị ka ya ga-ebi ọdọ ọ dị m ka Chineke nke imere anyị ebere ma ọ bụrụ anyị nkwe tutu anyị ekpughe akwụkwọ na ọ dị otu ihe ọ bụla bịara nga na taa nwee ike ivu ala mbụla aha nna Nnamdị prophetic ka m gwere bekee kwuo ka ahụ prophetic mbụla ovu amụma ovu ikike amụma ọ dị ndị lakpọtụle ya aha taa Adaelu emengere ahụ ala mma ma ndị ajụkwanụ sị ndị ụkwala ngwa ugbo ole lụrụ ga-ede elu unu agaghị ịhụ ala mma ndị ile nnọọ nga na taa ugbo ole la anyị ga-ide elu anyị agaghị ịma otu ala nnụ asọba atụrụ mara ihe mengere ya mara atụrụ feke ya efe isi n'ọhịa anyị egeela ụfọdụ ha gụpụtara taa ndị ka anyị ngere mmasịkwa mma hie nne kama akwụkwọ na nnọọ na mbụ nwere ile ya gara ịgụpụtacha taa nnọọ na ọ bụla ịchọta nwaghị nghọọ nnukwu mmadụ ọ bụla ịchọta nwaghị nza aha ndị okpokpo karịa ka Adaelu na nnọta ada ekwuhe mgbasara ya anyị mkpughecha akwụkwọ na gboo gbaa mbọ gweta nna gbaa mbọ zụrụ nna mee ma agụ idula keghị gbọta eso otu akụkụ ọ dịsị nwa gị Chineke nyere onyinye ọgụ ịbụ oke mmadụ ngị igwuru akwụkwọ a ya mmehie ya ele ya nlecha ya gụọ ihe nna anyị Adaelu mere ndụ ya tụgharịa ya aghọwo one of the future leaders of Ngwala Ụkwa la Abia steeti biko manda asị ndị na mmanụ ọla bụ nnọọ ngana ọrụ anyị mbụ anyị nkwado akwụkwọ na edere ngana akwụkwọ na nnọọ ngana n'ihi na the planning committee ma Colloquium committee emefuru ezigbo ego ibi akwụkwọ na kembụla laha Chineke nke usu niile nke ndị agha laha nwa ya mbụ onye nwaanyị lụrụ nzọpụta anyị bụ Jizọs Kraịst laha mmụọ nsọ ọdọ mbụla aha nna anyị Adaelu adị m asị ta anyị mkpughe akwụkwọ na ta anyị ngụọ ya gụta ọganihu ka anyị ngụọ ya gụta nkwekọrịta ka anyị ngụọ ya gụta ịhụnanya nye ndị ka anyị laha Jizọs Kraịst bụ onye nwe anyị ndị ka anyị nụkọrọ Adaelu aka o ndị ese foto onye tụ na ohere n'etiti ta ndị we ndị eme na biko onye ọbụla nọ ngana biko jide otu nna ngwa biko were nna jide
onye ọbụla jide kọpị
kera m nna jide ọdụ onye ọdọ biko onye ọbụla jide dowe akwụkwọ n'otu n'ala ihu gị dowe akwụkwọ n'otu n'ala ihu gị na-ekwu ije echi gatula line enu gatula line ị gaghị iji ya ala ọ dịkwa na okwu iji ekwu ọgwụla enyeghị hụ na adịje ekwu okwu ga-ekwu otu isi akwado ya ma akwụkwọ na biko organizing committee unu weta mkpesa akwụkwọ la ha adịje akwụkwọ adịje edehwe ọ bụghị ndị anyị nọ na nga ikwu otu ensi aga anyị mmecha akwụkwọ na gbuo wepụtara ya ọhaneze ndị wee mbụ ndị agba nkwu la hụ na adị ime unu vuru ya gaa la ndị mmadụ mbịara anya na taa ọ dị ego ole mbụ hwe ndị mpipụtara ya nslọm ha ga-ije egwere ya ndị a ndị evugharị ya enwe ike nye ndị mmadụ nata ya ma ndị asị onye mbụla m ga-ekpọ tokwu okwu mbụ Sikronsa adị m very happy ịhụ gara nwunye gị na taa visi la gị nwe ụlọ ọ dị nga hwe nnọ doma ya edoma nna ekwu
obi dị m ụtọ dịkwa nwaanyị m ụtọ obi dị ọtụtụ mmadụ hụrụ ya ụtọ onye ọbụla bịara na nwa ọbụla ị nwere ike inye biko nye ya ọ bụla dị eche ịnata ụlọ ego bụrụ eme hụ onye nwụrụ ọbaraba maka na mbụ ogwu unu ji abaka unu kwa unu biko unu emeela thank you anyị nye 50,000
unu ke gị ibilara tiwa kemba
Well, we thank God for this compilation. I strongly believe that everyone here, before you leave, please get a copy of this, and the producers meet our bossa so that copies of this book will be in the bookstore for people to go and pick some copies. I have been told that some copies will be placed at the library. Let the one that made that promise say it is better that way.
Above by the authority of the Colloquium Organizing Committee, but by the authority of the family, I've conferred with the head of the family and the wife of our leader. And they have approved that some copies of the book be placed on the library of the university. To that extent, 30 copies of this book will be placed freely on the libraries of the university.
30 copies to the library of Clifford University. You want to keep masse ezuta copies donate ara ndị ụlọ akwụkwọ uwe ma ọ bụ ndị church unu ma ọ bụ ndị obodo unu biko with due respect ndị niile mara ụlọ abụ nnọọ na anyị